Hear the Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ, according to John.
Glory to thee, O Lord.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify to the light so that all might believe through him. He himself was not the light, but he came to testify to the light. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him. Yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who were born not of blood, or of the will of the flesh, or of the will of a man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and lived among us. And we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise be to thee, O Christ.
So please be seated. Nicci recently heard something about an eclipse. Has anyone here seen an eclipse? A real one? Yeah. It's well worth seeing if you can get the chance. By definition, though, you have to travel to see an eclipse. They don't come to you. So they're actually really good. They're really impressive. I saw one in the tropics, so it was actually quite warm. And the sun was obviously quite bright. And then as the moon came over the sun sort of dimmed. And then you saw this kind of shade cover the earth. And all the birds kind of went quiet. And it was almost as if the wind stopped. It was really strange. And it became cold. It actually felt colder than it was before. And then there was this relative darkness. And there's that kind of moment of silence when it's dark and slightly cold. Nothing seems to be happening. And then it lifts again. Then the light comes, the birds start singing, the wind seems to blow, and the warmth returns. And Nicci told me about this thing which this man had said about it. He talked about the heaviness of the dark during the eclipse. And it's quite a good way of describing it, because you feel that kind of heaviness as the sun goes, as the darkness and the coldness come, as everything seems to go quiet. And then the light returns. And if you like, life itself seems to return to the land. You might remember a film, 2001, and there's that famous entry music. And when I read the words at the beginning of the Gospel reading, in the beginning, Michael, could you play it? Chord at that point, but it doesn't really work on that. So you get the idea of the sun rising somehow and projecting, bringing out light and life and hope and warmth and everything that comes with it. And at this, the darkest time of the year, we remember the sunrise. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. And there's the silence, the darkness, the unknown. All things came into being through him. And then it says, And what has come into being in him was life. And the life was the light of all people, of men and women. The light shines in the darkness. This light that shines out everywhere. The light of the sun which brings warmth and life to the world. But he's not speaking about the sun, he's speaking about something different. John Newton, who wrote the hymn Amazing Grace, when he was young and strong and headstrong, he was a reckless, violent, drunken, brawling, lived a very colourful life. And as he grew older, he lost his eyes, he grew blind. But when he was old, he actually wrote the hymn Amazing Grace. And in that hymn he said, I once was blind, but now I see. As he physically went blind, he could see the light that shines in the darkness. The light, if you like, of the Creator. The light of the one that made the heavens and the earth. The light of the origin of everything. The light which is life itself, which had somehow come into him, which had somehow saved him from his cruelty and his violence and his greed and his drunkenness and his recklessness, and turned him into someone else, that changed his inner being. That light shone into the darkness of his soul, and he went blind, but he could see the light. He became kind and gentle and good and upright. And he became loved. And that light is the thing which they're talking about being born at Christmas. The Navidad, the Nativity. When it says in the reading from Isaiah, the Lord has bared his holy arm before the eyes of all the nations. The idea of the picture of the arm is, if you like, the image of strength, of power, of ability. So Isaiah was saying the Lord has shown his strength and his power, his ability. He's shown his capacity to act, his ability to achieve something. And how's he done it? He became a baby. It's not what they were imagining. They thought there was going to be some massive army or some thermonuclear strike or something. But no, it was a baby. That was the plan. Before the eyes of all the nations. Symbolically, we'll hear about the wise men, the magi coming from the east to visit. Symbolically, they're the foreigners coming from the ends of the world to see this baby. But now the news of this baby has spread all over the world. Ramon was telling me how much he likes Chile. And David Pitches was once the bishop in Chile. Even in Chile, at the very bottom of the world, the far end of the earth, they've heard about this baby. To the very ends of the earth. Everyone has heard about him. And the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God in this baby, this child, this little thing, which looks so weak and so small, and yet somehow represents the strength and the power of God, his grace, his loving kindness to us, and his ability to change us from the inside out. Because that's the problem. How do we change ourselves? When I was 18, I kind of wanted to, and I couldn't, and I despaired. I thought, I can't do it. How can I change myself? I can't. There's no power on earth can do that. And yet in this baby, the Creator makes it possible for us to be changed from the inside out. That's how he shows his power. By that grace, by his gentleness, changing us inwardly. And when it says in the writer to the Hebrews, in this fabulous, if you read Greek, this is a beautiful bit of Greek. But obviously not many people read Greek now. But it says how this Son is as much not an angel as can be imagined. He says, angels are one thing. Everyone's impressed with angels. They think angels are good, they're powerful, they're splendid. And they are. But at the end of this chapter it says, but they're sent to serve those who are inheriting life. How much greater is the one whom he sent, his Son? Because the Son of God is not an angel. He's not just a human being. He is something else altogether. And the mystery of that is something which we can never quite understand. And that light which shone in that baby was the light of the Son of God. He was in the world. And it says the world came into being through him, yet the world did not know him. Who actually recognized him when he was a baby? The shepherds were told to go there. And they were given a sign. They said, you'll see him because he's a newborn wrapped up in cloths and he's lying in a feed trough. How many babies newborn are laid in feed troughs? Well, not that many, actually, even at that time. But they didn't say it to make some profound point. They just said it because that's how you'll know you've got the right one. Because most babies aren't in feed troughs. That's the one you want. Because if they hadn't told him, there'd be nothing about him which would have stood out. He wasn't glowing. He wasn't radioactive. You know, he didn't have a kind of funny birthmark. He didn't have a sort of weird colour. He didn't have strange jewellery. He didn't have a kind of flash sort of thing covering him up. He was just a baby. He was completely ordinary. And yet in that ordinary baby was the Son of God. The light which gives life to everyone. And that life, to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become the children of God. And that is how we're changed. Because by him becoming a man, we can become children of God. And the sense that we're somehow alienated and strangers on the earth, that our life is never quite right, can be changed because we become adopted by our Father in heaven. We become reconciled to the universe around us, and we can find our home and our proper place. All this is possible not by might, not by strength, not by cleverness, by the grace and the light and the life of a baby who grew up. Thank you all for your patience. He became flesh and lived among us. The Son of God became a man in a body like ours and lived among us for a little while. And because of him, his words can become flesh in our bodies as we are changed by him to become like him. And he lives in us by his Spirit. We become made new because of this. It's the pivot of history itself. Thank you, everyone. May the Lord bless you all. We're now going to have some music to contemplate these wonderful mysteries.